Uh, I'm going to revisit this subject of dark romantasy, right? Because the women speaking about it, they have an issue with other women reading it. And the issue is rooted in misandry. You'll see, for example, and this woman, stay tuned because she'll talk about young girls, whether they should read it or not, but she actually cock blocks a young boy for reading it. Okay, so let's get into this.
Bookish things with you all. So, dark romance. I'm going to come at this from the perspective of someone who creates bookish content online and has been since 2013. From the perspective of someone who has lots of young humans in their lives. I've got my niece and my nephew, and I also have a lot of my friends' kiddos.
So what she's just said here is that my opinion is worth more than yours, and I want to gatekeep the material from the next generation. That's what she just said in a nutshell.
So I am very aware of what they are reading, and I will go into a conversation I actually had with my niece about this recently, which has sort of sparked this podcast episode.
She went and talked to her niece, but not her nephew, right? Because his opinions don't count. The only time she'll go to her nephew is when she's telling him to do something. Remember, misandry is the default for women, period.
So I'm looking at it from that. I'm looking at it from the perspective of an ex-bookseller. And I'm also looking at it from the perspective of someone whose reading ability, when I was a child, was very ahead of the game when it
Ex-bookseller. I bet she was selling books like this to young girls. Right.
came to reading. So I sometimes read books that were too old for me and that I shouldn't have been reading. If you are unfamiliar with dark romance, dark
If you shouldn't have been reading them, you probably should have just put the book down, but you didn't, did you? So when she was 10 years old, she was enjoying breaking a taboo. And now she wants to deny it to the next generation. This woman's an authoritarian. She wants control of other people's lives.
romance is a subgenre of romance novels with darker themes and a lot more mature content. The plots are usually riddled with violence. They're, like mafia, romance, stalking, kidnapping. You would
Yeah, all the stuff that turns women on. Dark romantasy is a very, very popular gender. Sorry, genre to the female gender of all ages. Right. So it's exposing what women actually like, what actually turns them on. So are you going to try and deny it to the next generation? Francis.
be an example of dark romance, I guess, and the characters are usually pretty morally grey. There's themes of BDSM in them. 50 Shades of Grey falls under dark romance, and a
Right.
lot of the time,
50 Shades of Grey made tons of money at the box office. That's right.
consent is kind of not explicit. So they are pretty heavy books. They are books that should not be recommended lightly. Of course, there is absolutely nothing wrong with reading dark romance if that's what you want to read. If
She's lying because she's going to contradict herself. She does have an issue. If you want to gatekeep young people from reading this material, you do have an issue with dark fantasy.
that is what you're into, we're not here to shame anybody. I
And
don't
she
think there's
is.
anything wrong if that's what you want to be reading.
No, no, no. Yes, you do. If that's what you want to be reading, right? We'll get together. So if all that matters is if you want to read it, we're not here to shame you. So let's get to where she cock blocks a young guy, right? I'll skip ahead. No one should be ashamed of reading dark romantasy. Let's see if she holds true to that.
put somewhere, or at least have more content warnings than they have. When I was a bookseller, someone actually came in and asked for the second ACOTAR book for their son who really liked them. So I went and got it for her because she was telling me that he'd read the first one and he loved it. And then she said he hasn't actually read anything since he left primary school. So I was like, how old's your son? And he was 13 and he'd been reading ACOTAR. So
Now, this woman was 10 when she was reading stuff like this. This boy's older than her.
I then had to explain to her the content of ACOTAR, and she was mortified. She was like, oh my God, I had no idea. Like, I don't read. I had no idea what these books were about. I need to go and have some words with him and have a conversation with him.
Translation, she's going to tell him, you can't read this anymore. And she's going to shame her son. How dare you get turned on by the same stuff that turns me on? She's going to tell him his place, and she's going to put in the seeds of self-loathing. That's what his mother's going to do. Because this boy's turn on, so they're not going to change 5 years from now. Or 10 or 30.
Which I thought was, really good. But this is the thing, like,
of course you misinterest. Of course you thought it was really good that this boy was cock-blocked. But notice she has no stories where some teenage girl came in and she denied them. And here's another thing, Francis. If you were so concerned and you were a bookseller, why didn't you just put 14 plus stickers on these books? Or 18 plus? Then you could have just brought up the book and have the 18 plus sticker, and the mother would say, oh, this is too old for my son. You know why? Because one, you wanted to sell your books. But two, you wanted to sell them to young girls. No matter you have your issues with it, but it's only the boys you want to cock block. This makes you an evil person. You're a bad person, Francis.
These books are being recommended so casually to very young people, and I do feel like when you are recommending books, you have kind of a responsibility. Like it's up to.
They're just being recommended, period. And young people go for it. They look at the cover of the book. When you gave them the book, there was a cover on it, right? All right. So it's a romance books. Anyway, we'll get back to the start. And we'll get more into, I just wanted to get here first, because this is the gist of the whole thing. This is about attacking men in the end. Okay.
Not my business if that's what you want to read. My problem comes with the way that this is being spoken about and the way that these books are being recommended. By it being called dark romance, I don't think it should have romance in the title at all. I don't think this subgenre should be called any form of romance because it isn't romantic. These stories...
That's a lie, though. These girls do consider it romantic. It's what turns them on. Women's sexual desire is disgusting. That's the way it is. And so you're in denial of this, right?
Stories aren't romantic stories. These stories are more often than not a man who is very significantly causing harm to someone, and that's quite scary that we stick romance as a subgenre within that, because I feel like calling it romance, even though it's called dark romance, does make it sound like it's something romantic, when that...
All it does is expose romance for what it is. I mean, women consider it romantic when they con a man into marriage, then divorce him, and then rape him with child support. That's all considered romance to women. So I disagree, Francis. I say this is very romantic. This is romantic in the way that women consider romance.
Is very much not the case in the majority of these novels. They are being recommended with absolutely no discussion about it. BookTube obviously has been around for a while.
Hold it. They don't need a discussion beyond, I like this book. These people that recommend it, they just say, I read this book and I liked it, and that's it. No, of course not. They discuss the content, and the young girls who are into that kind of thing, just like you are, want it. That's how it works.
I have been on BookTube for a while, but I still feel like the way that books were recommended on BookTube was a little bit better than when it comes to TikTok. Like TikTok is so accessible, it's so quick. The books,
There you go. It's accessible. It's quick. In other words, you can't gatekeep. You authoritarian, you can't gatekeep. That's your issue.
people don't go into as much detail because they don't have as much time, whereas YouTube videos, people would be able to kind of go into huge detail and you'd be able to kind of grasp what a little bit more what the book was about, whereas book talk, everything's so quick. And what also is scary about book talk is you've got the TikTok shop like right there when people are recommending these books, and obviously with YouTube that wasn't always the case. There would have been links in the description, but the purchasing would not be as fast. TikTok shop being so there means that people are just buying these books.
The girls to buy it, they have to know what they like. They got to look at it and say, I like that. Like all these romantic, dark romantasy novels, they have covers of the sexy, beautiful bad boy dominating the poor damsel. So girls look at the cover and they know exactly what it's about and they want it.
Books with not full awareness of what they are about. I wouldn't even like casually recommend books like this to my friends. Like I would always ask them if they were comfortable with different things if I read these books and was recommended them, and I know that my friends would do the same. So it's kind of, I find it kind of crazy that it's being so widely like recommended. The other thing,
What are you talking about? 50 Shades of Grey made billions at the box office and was read like crazy. You girls like this shit.
is there are some really young people on TikTok and there are some really young people reading these books, and I feel like there's lots of factors in this. My niece is very much like me in that when I was her age, I had a reading ability of quite a lot ahead of me, and so does she. So she's got a really good understanding of different books, but we were
So she got to enjoy what you got to enjoy. Reading all the, breaking the taboos and getting turned on. But that 13-year-old boy, he didn't get that, did he?
having a conversation the other day, and I was saying to her, just because you can doesn't mean you should, because it was her birthday recently and I bought her some Jacqueline Wilson books. So she wanted to then see the Jacqueline Wilson books that I had on my shelf, and I have a copy of Love Lessons, which I was gifted when I was 10 years old. Love Lessons.
There you go. You got it when you were 10. How old's your niece? How come she's not able to read what you read?
Is about a 14-year-old girl called Prue who goes to a school for the first time. She's always just been homeschooled, and she starts babysitting for one of her teachers, and then the lines are very blurred, and I believe they kiss, but I think that's all they do.
Oh, I see. So the fantasy of the young girl going after the older guy you have an issue with it, even though it's true. 14-year-old girls bypass boys their own age to get with older guys with status. So this dark romantasy is actually very accurate. So do you have an issue with female sexual desire being displayed honestly, Francis?
Not that that's okay. She's a child and he's a teacher, but I don't think they sleep together. I think they kiss.
She's a child. She's underage, it's true, but she's a sexual being by 14, and she knows what turns her on. Right? She bypassed all the boys her age. Or is this character never met a 14-year-old boy?
It's in his car, I think. It's been a long time since I've read it. And basically, at the end of the novel, she has to leave the school and he faces no repercussions for anything that happened, which is scary because he is the person that was in the position of power.
See what this is about? This is a real issue. It's not that the girls are reading this and getting turned on. It's because the male character got away with it. That's her issue. Again, it's all rooted in misandry.
And she was a literal child who had been in her house for a long time and hadn't socialized, so didn't fully understand certain situations, and he put her in some very vulnerable situations. As an adult, I can read that and I can understand that that is horrific. Like, that is awful. He should have faced repercussions. That was not on her, that was all on him.
Aha, it's horrific that a man got away with something. He got away with some pleasure. That's what's horrific, and that's why this woman wants to gatekeep. She wants to be in control. What is it? Book talk, and what was the other one? I forget. But the other one is too accessible. Young girls can bypass her opinion. Right. But again, guys, you'll notice that I bet she doesn't prevent her niece from buying these if she really wants to and reading them. And this is what I'm talking about. She wants to convince young girls to read certain things, but she's all about preventing young boys from reading it. And her niece will not get a talking to and be shamed and gain self-loathing from this. This is an awful person. Frances, you're an awful person. Okay, there's Frances. Now, who's this person here? A model who's red? Oh, brother. Okay, we'll get into her opinion, right? Oh, wait, I better go a little further with Frances. I just realized there is more to this.
When I was a child, I remember reading it and thinking I shouldn't be reading this, and I'd just been bought this for my birthday because it was Jacqueline Wilson, and people thought Jacqueline Wilson was safe.
If you thought you shouldn't have been reading this, all you had to do is put the book down. So you did want to read it, and you read it because you wanted to. And other young girls have to be denied that.
But she's not, because she does write books for teenagers, and I was still very young, and I shouldn't have been reading Love Lessons because it's a book for teenagers. My brain had no full understanding of what was happening. I knew that it felt wrong and that I shouldn't be reading it,
But you read it anyway. Right.
my reaction was nowhere near what it would be now and what it would have been if I'd have read it just even a few years later as a teenager, because I couldn't fully grasp things because my brain wasn't fully developed. And I was saying this to my niece, and I was saying, just because we can understand the words and just because we can understand the context doesn't mean that our brains fully can grasp what's going on yet. Because I didn't want to be like, I'm older and this is, but I wanted.
So you couldn't grasp that a man and a teenage girl were kissing at age 10? I thought you were advanced.
To explain it to her why it is still important that I look at the books that she's reading, why my brother and my sister-in-law look at the books that she's reading, and why it's important that we still are fully aware of the content that she's reading.
Yeah. You're an authoritarian. You want in control of other people's lives. That's right.
Just because she can read to a higher level doesn't mean that we should be giving her books that are recommended for like 17, 18-year-olds and higher. Could read them, I have no doubt about it, but I feel like her brain would not fully process what was happening.
Again, if this is such a concern of yours, Frances, why don't you just demand that dark fantasy have 18 plus stickers on them? I mean, this is what you could do instead of just giving this stupid little opinion here. You could turn around and like get together with other women and say, let's make sure this is gate kept, because in the end, you don't want to stop young girls from reading this material. The real issue is how to stop young boys from getting off on it.
And I am worried that is what's happening with dark romance with a lot of teenagers and a lot of young people. But I see people, very young people, leaving bookshops with these books, and I don't know if their brains fully understand that this is not romantic.
If it wasn't romantic, they wouldn't call them romance. The bookstores are selling them. You sold them, right? So, if this was really wrong, shouldn't the bookstores be held accountable? Shouldn't you be held accountable for what you've done? Bookseller?
You as well. People love Joe. Penn Badgley had to literally be like, he's a killer. Like, please do not love this man. And I think that
Wow. So they're not loving him anyway. Romance isn't about love. Women aren't capable about that. If you were all about love, you would love good men for our character. You don't. You're turned on by the violence. That's what the average husband doesn't understand about his wife.
that's where it's kind of quite problematic, and where it kind of falls is that if people do not have this understanding, then they're going to be reading these books and fully coming away thinking that this is romantic. Do you know the whole conversation about how if teenage boys watch porn, they have this really, and girls to be fair, they have this really misguided and wrong view of what sex should be like and what.
There you go, guys. In a heart. There it is in a nutshell. She said boys at the beginning, and then she kind of corrected herself, but she means boys. She's not concerned with girls. It's young guys getting turned on. And by the way, again, she does the old, here's their actual preferences, and they watch porn and it fools them into liking this other thing, which is bullshit. People look for what they want on pornography. You have to type in your request, and she knows this. So you're a misandrist and you're a liar on top of it, Francis. You're just an overall bad person. There. I wanted to make sure I caught all that up. Now we'll get into what's this woman's name? A model who reads. Oh my God.
And had the idea to do this video. This script was technically mostly co-written by my good author friend AJ Vrana, so thank you, Alex, for helping me get all my thoughts together. Literally all week, I have been nervous to film this video, which really just shows like how batshit this entire situation is. Now that I'm here.
What, really? Or is this a case where you're going to be telling other women what they should read, and you're nervous because you know that there's going to be blowback? They're going to tell you to mind your own business.
At night on my floor, I'm finding I really don't give a shit. I guess this Tetley calm tea really is doing its job. Third caveat is that I am not a psychologist, a behavioral scientist, or your therapist. I'm just somebody who has a degree in critiquing books and a person who has a lot of feelings. So without further ado.
Very well. If you're none of those things, then you should keep your mouth shut about what other books women read, right?
Grab a drink, grab a snack, and buckle in. Join me on my floor while we discuss what I did to piss off the dark romance community and why I'm not sorry about it. So firstly,
you stuck your nose where it didn't belong. Well, they may be angry with you, but they told you off, and what are you going to do about it? Model who reads.
for context, dark romance is a subgenre of romance novels that mostly focuses on darker themes and more mature topics. Instead of meet cutes and happily ever afters, they're mostly focusing on morally gray characters and stories that involve violence or trauma of some kind. Popular tropes that make up this subgenre include talking about mental illness, BDSM or kink, mafia romances, and in extremes, kidnapping, stalking, grape, and other types of
rape. You can say it, rape. I can.
SA sexual assault. I suppose I should give a bit of a content warning.
Yeah, all the stuff that turns you girls on.
I will not be going in depth in those topics, but like they are going to be mentioned because of how prevalent they are in dark romance. And well, I love me some morally gray characters. I love me some slightly unhealthy enemies to lovers. And I love
But, I don't want you girls enjoying it.
mental health representation. Dark romance in general, I think, goes a little too far for me personally to enjoy a lot of it. I find
So, if this is all about you, why would these people get pissed off? Why would these other women get pissed off? Because you're telling them they shouldn't be reading it.
the genre has themes that I either don't like or don't agree with, and so I tend to just not engage with that content in online spaces. The inciting incident of all of this happened a couple of weeks ago when I was at a publishing conference because I work in publishing and book distribution, and I had an experience where one of the imprints that was presenting their fall 2023 lineup had a book that was described as a serial killer grape romance novel, and so I made this TikTok in response.
Well, TikTok in response, I thought you were just going to not bother with this. I thought you were just minding your own business.
Excuse me, what the actual fuck?
I am a comedic genius. Yeah, those 6 seconds are why everyone's mad at me. As is the case with a lot of taboo topics, those tend to be...
Yeah, well, you were sticking your nose in their business. They're going to read it no matter what, so what good were you? And what the actual fuck, yeah. Women's psychology and their sexual turn-ons are fucked up. I'm glad you're admitting this.
Not presented by major publishing imprints, and especially not to many people, reps from, across Canada that are going to be putting that type of book in bookstores because...
Canada? Are you Canadian like myself?
These conferences tend to focus on more like mainstream commercial fiction. So I posted it as an expression of shock and also to use that sound. And I thought I might get like a couple...
Not shock, disgust. You're spitting in their faces. Right.
Of snarky comments on it because I know that the dark romance community is like tight, but at the same time I'm like, this is vague and it's a trending sound and it's like literally not even that funny. And my poking...
So you're an asshole. You're an asshole for no reason, and they're calling you out on it. Okay.
Fun at dark romance is nothing new. Like, people have been doing this for a long time. So I was a little surprised by the level of backlash that got. And even
wow, so you said to a huge demographic that your taste in books sucks and that you're sick, and they lashed out. They pushed back against you. Wow. This is so shocking. You self-important nobody.
then I didn't think too much of it until I had a mutual of mine message me about it. So this girl was a friendly mutual of mine who I knew read a lot of dark romance and was an advocate for the genre. But she wasn't only a dark romance blogger, so I just wouldn't...
So you've got a friend who's into this, right? And you're bashing it. Okay.
Interact with her dark romance stuff, and I would, comment on videos talking about other things. She DM'd me and very kindly asked me to take the video down because she stated that I didn't read dark romance, so I didn't know about it, and it wasn't fair for me to be judging people. This is supposed to be an inclusive, safe space for people to talk about their trauma, and I'm shaming it, and I don't understand.
Yeah, that's true. All that stuff is true, right? So she's your friend asking you, hey, don't be an asshole. But you're going to be an asshole anyway.
And I ended up what I thought was respectfully saying, no, I'm not going to take it down because, first of all, I'm making fun of a whole genre, not just like a specific book. I didn't...
Yeah, but you're making fun of the people who read it. Like, what the fuck? This material isn't just by itself. It has an audience, and you're bashing them. And you're bashing your friend. That's why she came and asked you to stop being an asshole.
Name anybody or book in that video, and also that I truly do take issue with some of the extremes of the genre. And then she told me that...
So what? Just don't read them. Mind your own business.
myself and all of my social media pages were not safe spaces for dark romance readers, that I was hypocritical for criticizing dark romance books because I read problematic books, and then she blocked me.
Well, she was right. You read problematic books, whatever that is. I'd have to get in contact with this woman and ask her. You see, your problematic books, they're okay because you like them. But the stuff you aren't into, sorry, girls, you're just crazy for reading that. So you're another authoritarian.
So we don't talk anymore. I can't go back and actually take screenshots because she blocked me.
Wow. So you're a complete asshole and someone blocked you because and saying, hey, this asshole was an asshole. Good on your friend.
So our messages are gone. But I want to make it clear that I did not in my messages ever say that I thought that she or other dark romance readers were stupid or that they were like less worthy people. I never said.
Yes, you did. Your reaction was, this is sick shit. And therefore, anyone who reads it and likes it is also sick. So you're just lying.
That I was trying to invalidate her trauma, but I genuinely think that there are parts of the dark romance community that are toxic and unhealthy to engage with. The thing I find so odd is, as you can see from that
Don't engage with them. Why did you engage with them?
TikTok, I was not making fun of a certain book or a certain author or even like anybody who reads dark romance. I was not making fun of the
Again, that's a lie. Because what you showed there showed contempt for the material, therefore anyone who reads it and likes it. So you're just lying. I think we got a real narcissist here.
Imprint, but so many people got very, very mad at me that I would dare poke fun at a genre. Because dark romance is a genre, and
you weren't poking fun at it. You were spitting on it. You were showing contempt for it. See, words have meaning. Model.
it's also open to critique, like any other genre is. And I've done
Really? So your critique was that this was fucked up? That was your critique?
tons of videos critiquing romance as a genre. A couple of videos ago, I did a romance trope jail. I like romance novels, but I also think that there are some tropes that are not healthy depictions of real world relationships.
Really? One of my recent videos, I showed some woman who got together with a gang member. She was turned on by him. So the stuff they're depicting has actual real life examples. So they're not allowed to fantasize about real life events.
Of course, it's all fiction, right? Like, it doesn't have to be exactly like real life. Even fiction is fantasy. But part of being a reviewer is talking about things that you do or don't like. And I'm allowed to not like something.
But you didn't just say you didn't like it. You basically said that the people who read it are are bad people, or they're crazy, or they're fucked up. Come on, lady. You may not ever own this, but I'm just saying it outright, what your motivations are.
Anything that anybody likes is open to critique. Like, I fully acknowledge that there are some books that I like that have ridiculous plot holes or weird pacing, or yes, the author has said something problematic in
And so did someone look at your books and went, that's fucked up, man? I'll skim ahead because she's basically repeating herself over and over again. 30 minutes, holy shit.
That I got 3 types of comments. So I would like to go over each of them with you right now.
Okay.
Number 1 is people going, well, if you don't like it, don't read it. And you know what? Fair. Like, I understand that.
Okay, if that's the case, this video wasn't necessary. You're right. You should have just minded your own business.
Not everything is for me. And not everything that I like is for you. Like, hold on, I'll show you. I literally have a
This is bullshit. I'm gonna get past this. Let's get further ahead.
really like the writing that much. I think some of her other books are better. But overall, I'm not going to rate it poorly because I understand that I'm not the target audience for this. So,
Right.
if a breeding kink is your boat,
But the target audience, they're real degenerates, according to you.
float in it. But in dark romance, for example, there are themes that I think on a conceptual level are things that should not be romanticized or glorified.
Okay, then you just denied everything you said earlier. You're being an authoritarian. You're saying, yeah, the stuff you like, I don't think should be allowed. So you're contradicting yourself. These fascists always do.
Also personally think this about a lot of things. For example, I don't think we should be glorifying serial killers, but look how many freaking Netflix documentaries there are. And as much as you can say, oh, but we're listening to the podcast so we know how to protect ourselves, and oh, this isn't
Yeah, they're lying, lady. Women love violent men, and they're fascinated by them. And that's all they should be saying.
a movie. This is a documentary about something that happened in real life. Sure. But the way that those things are being presented to you is by a beauty guru doing her makeup while talking about a gruesome murder, or Netflix casting a hot guy to play the serial killer instead of some creepy, gross dude who you probably would not want to engage with.
No, that's untrue, actually. That's untrue. Like here, let me just bring it up here. I'll pause. There's the ugly gang leader, and there's the beautiful governor who got into a relationship with him. So, where is she here? A model. It does. What difference would it make if they made the person ugly? Women are turned on by the violence more than the looks. Okay.
Books that center falling in love with kidnappers or assaulters
Yeah.
are being marketed as sexy and romantic. Like, yes, I do have a problem with that.
Okay, then. Okay, you're not the authoritarian. Yeah, exactly. So you don't think they should be reading this, and you think anyone who reads it is disgusting. So this isn't just critiquing a genre. And all these women who told you to screw off knew that. Now you're sitting here lying about it.
Being marketed as sexy and romantic. Like, yes, I do have a problem with that. You want me to glorify and actively want one of the most horrible.
They don't ask you to glorify anything, though. They're just asking you to mind your own business. Is there any kind of ability to be honest on your part?
Horrifying, violating things I could possibly think of happening to my body. But am I not allowed to comment on something that makes me uncomfortable?
No, because you just admitted that this book isn't for you, and you're not forced to read it. You're not forced to consume it. So you just mind your own business.
Am I just supposed to pretend it doesn't exist? I
Yes.
feel like a crotchety conservative when I say I have the right to disagree with something.
Well, women are conservative. You are not progressive in any way or form. And you're an authoritarian. Big surprise.
Because that is an argument that is used to harm people in much bigger ways. And I understand that dark romance is supposed to be a space about mental health and working through trauma and have.
Well, that's a lie too. Women who claim that is bullshit. It's not about mental health. They're turned on. It's their fantasies. Even the women talking to you can't be honest.
having an inclusive space for intense feelings to be discussed and expressed. But I also believe
Yeah, they want to talk about their lust and their turn-ons, yeah. And they don't want people like you mucking it up. Just keep your damn nose out of it.
it's desensitizing and romanticizing things that on a societal level should not be acceptable no matter how different that you are. Like,
Again, you're conflating these women enjoying a fantasy with accepting it in real life. Why are you doing that? Because you want to prevent them from enjoying it. Because you don't happen to like it yourself.
if you're like, oh my god, that guy who kills people is so sexy, and I'm like, that guy kills people, and you're like, yeah, but it's part of the genre. I'm like, he still kills people. What?
Well, a lot of people are what's his name? Mangione? Manione, the guy who took the life of that CEO. A lot of women find him sexy now. He murdered someone and it was sexy to them. What can I do? What can you do? This is women's nature. You get an issue with it. Take it up with them. And you did take it up with them. Now you're getting pushback. And now you're making this butthurt video.
And because me critiquing dark romance is nothing new, another comment that I often got in that comment section was, oh, so we're shaming dark romance readers again, are we? And to that,
Yeah, exactly. You are. You are shaming them. Yeah.
I ask, where in that TikTok did I shame you?
Well, when you spit your coffee and said, what the fuck? Wow, you're such a gaslighter. I'm so glad just for a change, it's the women getting gaslit. You're gaslighting other women for a change. The thing is, they're your equals. So you that's why you're making this butthurt video. You can't just dismiss them as peasants.
I would like to know, like, actually, where did I shame you in those 6 seconds? If you are rabidly defensive against something that is meant for public consumption, you might want to think about why that.
What are you doing? You're the one who's getting defensive over something publicly consumed. These young ladies are consuming it. You have an issue with it.
So personal to you, because otherwise you wouldn't feel the need to protect it from other people's criticisms. Like, me critiquing the genre of dark romance is not the same thing as me critiquing one person's trauma. And also, critique is not intolerance. Like, I think that there is a space in dark romance to explore sexual trauma.
You think there's a space for it, but then earlier you said there's something wrong with it. More contradictions, right?
And to explore falling in love while also having major mental health struggles, or to, use a safe space to explore a new kink. I'm not critiquing your trauma. I'm critiquing the things that gave you that trauma. Like, for example, let's look at SA victims. This is something that in real
This is where the misandry comes in. This is where she bashes guys, right?
life is incredibly difficult to get justice for actual rape victims, because
See, this is a lie. This is why this is the original reason why I brought this up, guys. She's telling a bold-faced lie that demonizes us guys and uses it to try and stop other women from enjoying stuff that they like simply because it's not her ball of wax, right?
we live in a patriarchal society. A lot of times people that come forward with that allegation are not believed, or people ask, oh, well, what were you wearing? Were you drunk?
Yeah, this woman's a liar. Right. She's pushing feminist propaganda. Yes. So these women they're not traumatized. They're not talking about mental illness. They're not mentally ill any more than the next woman is. This is simply female sexual desire on full display. It's embarrassing to people like you. And so you want to shut these women down. They're telling you to screw off. You're upset, so you make this bullshit video where you obscure and lie and contradict yourself. And the worst part of all, the worst offense is you attack us guys. We have nothing to do with what you like. So that's why I brought this up. We've gone far enough, guys. You two are real lowlights. You model who reads and what's your name, Rand Francis. In the end, everything revolves around attacking us guys. That's what this motivation is about in the end. Always. Recognize it, guys, for what it is. And that's my critique of you. I'm sure you'll take it like a real adult.